boundaries. But, despite all this, I am deprived of the opportunity to carry out practical organizational work on the ground. When they kicked me out of the country, the authorities slammed the door shut behind me and turned the key, making it absolutely clear that in the event of my returning, I would face the rest of my life in prison. At the same time, I am one of the very few who has personal experience, we could say, fortunately, very few, for this experience comes with a high price, who has actually told Vladimir Putin to his face exactly what I think about corruption at the highest levels of government. And just a month after doing this, I faced criminal charges and ended up being locked up for more than 10 years, 6 in a prison cell and 4 in labor camps. Added to which I staged 4 hunger strikes, including 2 when I refused to take even liquids, and I carried out all of them until my demands were met, and in the case of 3 of them, as a sign of solidarity. 10 years. That's almost as much as my friend Platon Lebedev. It's immeasurably less than my colleague Alexei Pichugin, who's still in jail. It's easier than the fate that befell another of my colleagues, the lawyer Vasily Alexanyan, who only a year after his release died from a disease for which he was refused treatment while in prison. I have something to put before these authorities, some things that will be remembered and some things that must never be forgotten. But that is exactly why I don't want to talk about the past. Rather, I suggest that we think about the future. I don't believe I have the right to choose between justice and mercy, to forgive or to refuse to forgive those whom I consider should be punished. I certainly don't consider myself to be the bearer of the ultimate truth. Each one of us has his or her own experience, our own scores to settle, and our own thoughts on the future. But by virtue of the way in which my mind works, I have decided not to talk in terms of how it wouldn't be bad if we were to change those who are in power, but rather to discuss a practical plan of action as to what to do after Putin. From the way in which I think of time, and I look on time differently after the period I spent in prison, I believe that this regime does not have much of it left, no more than 5 or 10 years. How it will end, I don't know. Probably together with Putin. After all that has happened in Ukraine, I find it very difficult to imagine that he will step down of his own choice and live out however much time God grants him on some paradise island somewhere. He simply won't be allowed to do that. One way or another, this regime will meet its end. When it does, there will be so much that will have to be put right, and it has to be done quickly. It would be wonderful if, when this moment arrives, society has already decided who we are and where we're heading, in which direction the road is leading in this rapidly changing world. Introduction. My path into politics, and what I hope to achieve. Politics was never important for me in and of itself. Before I found myself locked up, I was involved in politics only inasmuch as I needed it for business. In other words, simply to achieve those economic goals that were my priority at the time. Then came prison. Prison is hardly the optimum place to discuss politics, but it's a good place to receive a political education. And this was what I earnestly strove to achieve when I wasn't occupied with the other tasks that are put upon you when you're in jail. At the very end of 2013, Putin took the decision to release me. Even though, as they say, hope springs eternal, I considered the likelihood of such an outcome to my 10 years of incarceration as highly improbable. To this day, I genuinely have no idea what guided Putin's thinking. No doubt there were a number of different reasons. There was the forthcoming Winter Olympics in Sochi, which he knew had to pass off in exemplary fashion. Then there was the personal request from the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, which he calculated might lead to some sort of reciprocal concession. And, of course, there was the human emotion of compassion for my dying mother, for whom this would be the last chance to see me. I was aware of all of these reasons and weighed them up while rapid preparations were being made for my expulsion from Russia. I understood, too, that without Putin's goodwill and wish for this to happen, I would never be set free, and also that his decision upset a lot of people in his circle.